Cameron Olson owns the graphics company.
Ready for the road.
One of his big accounts
dispatches 13 vans.
Outfitting a new era of Chicago police vans. To pursue his dream of running his own business, Cameron enrolled in a graphic design program.
Went for about 2.5 years, realized that the loans were getting out of control, and it was going to cost another $30,000 to finish.
Cameron has a graduated payment plan. At first, he made small monthly payments. Every 2 years, his monthly payment goes up. Recently, Cameron saw his loan statement.
I wanted to light it on fire.
Cameron initially owed about $25,000. Nearly $14,000 in payments later, he owes almost $26,000.
And what was even more infuriating is that it made me realize that my wife's loans were probably twice as bad.
Cameron's wife attended the same school. Initially, she had nearly $82,000 in loans, but now owes nearly $98,000.
I mean, there's no way out.
This is where Cameron attended classes on the Schaumburg campus of the Illinois Institute of Art. You'll notice the parking lot is now empty, and that's because, to make matters worse, the school has since closed and lost its accreditation.
Just recently, they agreed to pay $200 million in settlement. So we're going to try to go after that a little bit.
Cameron and his wife are selling their house and will use the money to pay down their loans.
Oh my goodness. You know, guys, there are going to be tons of student loan stories. We will do student loan stories until the system changes. Don't worry, we got Ramsey and other stuff going on too, but man, and some documentaries I've got coming up. I'll probably wait till summer starts in about 2 weeks to hit those documentaries. But let's look at a couple of things here. Imagine having to sell your house just to try to break even. And it doesn't even say that selling the house would solve this $150,000 debt that they have respectively. Just think about that for a minute. You go to school to get all this stuff, to try to get all this education, to try and advance yourself. And he's working as a self-employed entrepreneur, and you're doing all of this work. It doesn't get you there, and you have to sell your prized largest possession, your house, just to break even. So it's almost like you went to school for what? Nothing. And this is what students are saying over and over again. They went to school for nothing. So let's look at the comments. Let's have you share your thoughts in the comments. Okay. Do you think banks would be willing to cap interest rates on student loans? Okay. So as you're hearing these stories, you've probably heard there are millions of stories like this. And we on this channel, we are a voice for the people who have these stories that they need to tell. Okay. But put in the comments or share it. Of course, you can share any other thoughts you wish as well. You can just write in to say hello. All right. Do you think banks would be willing to cap interest rates on student loans? Because well, I'll share you just my brief thoughts is that, colleges they're going to work themselves out of business. Colleges are going to work themselves out of business. And in turn, the banks are also going to work themselves out of business because the banks need to make the loans based on the college, obviously, that the kid is going to. Well, people aren't going to college because everybody's getting the word is spreading around. And it's not just spreading around from, house to house. It's spreading around on social media. It's spreading around generationally. And that's where the big damage is all the generations are looking at the generation before going, I don't want to be like this. So here we have this poor guy and his wife, $150K in debt, self-employed, which we won't even go into my thoughts there on that. Okay. But we do have self-employment involved, which is hard enough. And they're having to sell their house. So basically at this point, what was the whole point of school? Absolutely nothing. I don't want to do all that work to have to give up my successes just to wind back at ground zero. The other thing is the graduated payment. For those who aren't familiar with this channel, I have this notepad. I write down stuff. So if it's like I'm looking down and up, because I try so hard not to stop these TikToks for you guys, it doesn't always work though. And some days you just have to accept it ain't going to happen. Okay. Depends on how long the TikTok is. But in this particular case, he also has a graduated payment. And we know with that as time goes on, your bill goes up. I've never understood why people would do graduated payment. Maybe short of being a medical doctor. I mean, where you pretty much know your pay is going to go up. I think for anybody else, and I might even be wrong on doctors, okay, but if I was going to take a raising bet between the doctor, okay, or some other degree that's 50, 60,000, maybe even the $40,000 range, all right, I've never understood the graduated payment plan. I think you're better off in just a fixed rate. But again, it depends upon what type of, program you have and possibly how desperate you are. But I've never agreed with the graduated payment because you're committing to future dollars. You're saying, hey, I can pay more money down the road. How do you know you can pay more money down the road? How do you know you don't wind up with a medical condition that takes all your money? How do you know you don't marry someone that needs that money for their own medical needs, or that there's, you know what I mean? You can't, there's background noise going on the outside, so I hope you can't hear it. You cannot commit. Oh, you know what? Big. I try to keep the microphone as much as I can out of the picture, but sometimes I can't. But if you really think about it, you are basically committing to future dollars. You don't know what your future is going to look like financially. You have no idea. So why people commit to future dollars to say, oh yes, I'll be able to pay more 5 years from now. Okay. I've never understood that, and I wouldn't do it. Yes, I know it's the ongoing earring saga. I gotta remember these earrings don't stay on.
Are y'all paying your student loans? Because I thought we all agreed that we weren't. And then I feel like y'all low-key are. Like, I feel like y'all are. So, like, what's really going on? I was on the phone with my friend the other day, and she was, like, talking about them. And I was like, wait, why are we talking about them? Like, why are they a topic of discussion? Like, aren't we in solidarity?
Oh, let me tell you how the solidarity works, okay? On social media, it goes something like this. They're all holding up their banners going, we're not going to pay our student loans. We're not going to pay our student loans. That's what is said socially, okay? But behind closed doors, it goes more like this. They all run like little rats and thieves of the night. I've told you that before. They're on the phone with, yes, could I please speak to Sally Mae? Can I please speak to Nabian, whoever it is, your student loan holders? Who is it, Mahila now? All right. And they're all making payment arrangements. That's what they're doing in the background, because in the background, they really don't want to get garnished. They don't want their credit score to drop. And even though people say, oh, I don't care about my credit score, the young ones are concerned about the amount that they're going to pay for insurance, the amount they're going to have to pay to purchase a car, if they're ever going to have the ability to get a house. All right. Their credit scores are going to matter. And I don't care what Dave Ramsey says. Dave Ramsey's worth a few $100 million. He don't need to worry about no credit score. He can self-insure as well. Okay. Meaning he doesn't need to get insurance from somebody. He can provide his own insurance coverage. All right. So behind closed doors, they're all making their plans, but in public, they're all claiming they're not going to pay. And they're all happy, by the way, to see you not pay, because they figure, you're going to stand up for the crowd. You're going to be the one to take the bullet, so to speak. Not so fast on that, right? So yeah, so when she calls her friends up and go, hey, why are we all paying our student loans? I thought we agreed we weren't paying it. Well, I agreed to it till they said May 5th. And then when they said garnishment date, I'm like, I've got the money, or I'm going to get a second job or whatever, but I'm going to go ahead and take care of the loan. Yeah, how quickly solidarity breaks down. And don't think for a minute that the federal government doesn't know this, okay?
This man just said they can just take my bachelor's degree. I'm not even using it anyway. When I tell y'all I felt it, I have a bachelor's and a master's, and I'm not even using it. They finna start garnishing people wages starting on the field. It's the 4th now. And I'm so glad my loans are in deferment. Thank you, Jesus. I don't know when I gotta make a payment, but when that day come, can I defer it again? I ain't got it. I ain't have it in. I ain't got it in. At this point, y'all can take my bachelor's and master's. I don't even need it. I feel like they're trying to make the rich richer and the poor poorer.
Okay, so this deferment thing everybody's trying to do, let's remember there are usually limits to how long you can defer. Okay, there are limits. You can't just keep it on for forever. The other thing is this, let us remember, if you are hoping for student loan forgiveness, you are hoping, say you have federal loans, not for private, you have federal loans, you're like, fine, I'm going to do my 20 years respectively. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and, get my loan forgiven. Well, when you is on deferment, you can't do that. Please remember the 20, 25 years. God, that seems so long. And I held mine for 16. So I know how long that seems. Okay. All of that is adding to your time with student loan. Now you wonder why. Now you wonder why older people wind up with student loan debt. for 30, 40 years. I've seen TikTokers just bragging away. I got mine on deferment for 3, 4 years. Great. Add that to the 20 years it's already going to take you to pay it off, if you ever do. Then now you're starting to see how these loans last forever, because only on a student loan can you pay less than what is required to even meet the minimum interest. And the bank's happy with that, because after all, whatever minimum interest you don't meet, they just lick their fingers, they take that difference and they add it on to the next month. Ka-ching, your bill just went up.
Okay, so total amount paid so far, $53,227. I owe a lot for my school loans. Principal paid, if you're not aware, that's like the actual, like that's money going towards the actual loan. Total interest paid, $23,000. So of the amount that I've actually paid off, like almost half of that is just the interest. So I wanted.
Okay, so this is why we're talking about in the comments. Do you think banks would be willing to cut down their interest so students don't have to pay these ridiculous amounts? Basically, you guys, students are paying for these degrees over and over and over again. Okay, some students I've heard have paid for it over 3 times over, because again, they're barely keeping up with the interest. Now then, she just showed you, and we will explain it till every person, at least in the United States, that is going to school, okay, understands. Stop celebrating because you have zero payment, you have low payment, unless you are public service loan forgiveness. It is my belief that I genuinely believe the only people that should be on income based is public service loan forgiveness. Now, before you start pulling out the pitchforks, okay, it's not because I think PSLF people are somehow better or not. Okay, it's not that. It's because it's hurting everybody else. Are those pitchforks going away? But seriously, if you are not PSLF, I knew once I fully understood how the income-based payments work, and it took me about a year of being on that, maybe even 2 years before I really understood it. But finally, I did understand it. And I even remember the loan person saying, yeah, your interest is going to keep going up, but it doesn't matter because you're on PSLF. And I knew, sorry, I moved the microphone. And I knew that I was committed to education. Going on PSLF, if you are not committed to the field, is not going to help you any. As a matter of fact, it'll even do you more damage, because you'll make those income-based payments, those lower payments that don't meet the interest. And you're going to make those thinking, oh, I'll do my 10 years. Then you drop out in year 8. Oh, gee, well, you did all that for naught. In other words, now because you decided to leave the public service arena and go into a different sector, the private sector, all right, now all that accrued interest that you have now becomes a new bill, and that's what you now have to work with, is that higher bill. But here's the thing. I genuinely don't believe that PSLF should be allowed. But the other problem is, and this is a problem I don't have a solution to, I do not have the answer to it, then how do we allow people to go into fields and be able to afford it? One commenter, and I apologize, I do not remember your handle. Okay, so I do apologize. Next time I will write down people's handles, because I do like to give credit to people when they come up with great ideas. So if you post a comment and I really, really like it and I refer to it, then I will make sure to write that inside the what was it? Give you credit for it. But I didn't think to do that this time, so my apologies. But a person just recently wrote in the comments, and I thought it was a great comment. He or she, because I don't always know who you are, and I don't remember who it was, okay? But what they wrote was that they think regarding the interest, because this is the interest question here, okay? They think that regarding the interest, it should not be for doctors. That if you major in a medical field, because it is so complex, because it is so demanding as far as the years of schooling that we put in. I'm adding more to what they said, but I understand what they were saying. Okay, they were basically saying that, look, you know what, we can't limit ourselves just based on who can afford to be a doctor, who can afford to take out a $400,000-$500,000 student loan. Okay, well, does this mean the only people are going to be doctors are rich people because they're the ones who can afford it? So what this poster was saying is that, you know what, we should make it so that those doctors, they should not have to pay interest. And I thought that was a really good point. But then, of course, we could take that same thought and expand it to teachers, because who teaches the doctor? How do the doctors learn? They learn from teachers, you see? So I kind of thought about that, and I thought, maybe perhaps for colleges, the colleges would start taking their price of tuition more seriously if things like that were implemented. It's like, okay, we don't, and I know people will sit there and go, oh, but the liberal arts degrees are going to get screwed over because they're not going to be seen as, equal to someone being a doctor or a teacher or someone who wants to become a nurse. Yeah, you're right. It's not. Okay. We appreciate art, dance, and music. I understand you got the PhD in clarinet. We appreciate that. But I thought the poster had a really good point, and that was perhaps, it made me think, because they were referring specifically to doctors in their post. It made me think, wouldn't that be interesting? What would happen to college tuition if we took, and I hate to say it, the non-liberal arts degrees? Okay. I want to major in, French literature. Great. Wonderful. Do so. But that has a higher interest rate. Okay. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a teacher. Oh, now that has a lower interest rate. And those interest rates are capped. Wouldn't that be interesting? So I wanted to thank that poster. I just absolutely loved the post. I thought it was just absolutely wonderful because it made me think. That's what I love. Things that make me think. Okay. So anyways, moving on with that. But you can see just how much debt this stuff adds up. And I'm telling you, people, this channel used to be called Student Loan Chit-Chat. Yes, it was, until 2 years ago when I changed it. So I am very dedicated to student loans.
To figure out how much money exactly I was paying off in student interest for just my federal loans. So I did a little investigation. Keep in mind that I have federal student loans, my husband has federal student loans, and then I have refinanced 2 of them. So in total, we have about $154,000 in student loans, but my federal student loans are about $77,000, and it's made up of 4 smaller loans. Anyways, I calculated it, and guess what? I pay $396 a month in interest every month. That's how much it accrues in interest every month. My minimum payment is of $875, and that means that about half the money that I'm paying just goes to interest, and then the other half goes to principal.
Are you happy working where half your payment goes to interest? And that's if you're lucky. That's if you worked it yourself down there enough to get it there. On most amortized loans, the entire thing goes to interest. Wow. Oh, by the way, I put up one yesterday called Grandma O's. Let's see if I can do this. Well, I'm afraid to change it without messing up the stream. But I'll link that one at the end, Grandma O's, that we did yesterday. It's the interest that's killing people. But here's something where we as consumers have to take responsibility, whether we like it or not. We don't bother to look at it till the very end. We don't look at the interest. We may even go, okay, we know it's 4%, 6%, whatever. We don't break down in advance to find out how much it's going to be. And parents are, especially just like students, parents can be notorious for not looking at it. And they go off and co-sign on a bill, on a student loan debt, and they can't afford the bill either.
So our loan officer came back and said, LOJK, for the amount that we are approved for getting a house, and lowered it by $50,000 because of our student loans. So the number really wasn't an issue.
Okay, just to make sure, because I had to actually listen to this TikTok twice, because I know people are doing other things. What she's basically saying to start is that they were approved for a home loan. Okay, but the home loan the amount that they're allowed to borrow has been reduced by $50,000 because of student loan debt. Yeah, I got your back on this.
You at first, but now that everything happening with student loans and everything, we'll have to start making payments on them in February for my husband and March for me. So our loan officer was like, LOL, nah, dog, we're not approving y'all for that amount. So let me show y'all these numbers. So this is my husband's, $35,108, and this is mine, $121,264. So, of course, we're obviously bummed out. I think I'm more so bummed out because I just feel like I am just kind of stuck in this financial hole. And I know that the path for me was to open my practice and right out of school and yada, yada, yada. But it's just kind of like, I'll look at my friends and how they started working right out of school. And I'm like, if I just started working right out of school, we'd be definitely in a different financial spot than where we are. But I can't compare, but it's heavy.
I don't get it. Haven't we seen TikToks, family? Have we not seen TikToks, including, I think, the one from yesterday? I see so many TikToks, they kind of roll all into big one ball after a while. I think it was yesterday or the day before something. Okay. And the young lady at the beginning says something like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm going to carry all my student loan debt and I'm just not going to care about it because I'm going to live my life and I can still get my house and I can still get this and I can still get that. What happened to that story? What happened to all those TikTok stories where people sit and say, oh, don't worry about your six-figure, $200,000 student loan debt. You can still get everything you want. Oh, really? Huh. See, this is why we don't follow TikTok University, because real life hits and all of a sudden you're like, oh, but they said on TikTok this would work. Yeah, on TikTok, anything works. On TikTok, I'm a millionaire, and so are you. If you are a millionaire, congratulations. All the best to you. Oh, the other thing also is, so next to the baloney that we hear about, oh, yes, you can be in all this debt and live your best life. Look, by the way, I'm not saying you can't live your best life. Okay? I'm not saying that you can't go out and still, enjoy the fruits of living with your $100,000, $200,000 student loan debt. We get that. What we are saying, or what I am saying, me, myself, and I, don't fall for all that baloney that says that your debt is insignificant in how it impacts your life. It will impact your life. And your job is to figure out how to get the bejesus out of it. All right. And hey, you can use this channel. Let us know in the comments how you're progressing. I have a few people actually telling me how they're progressing. And by the way, I meant to tell you, okay, if you have made a financial goal, because this is called consumer debt chit-chat. We don't focus just on student loans, okay? If you have made a financial goal and you're like, I just wish somebody would splash it on social media, put it in the comments. Tell me that you made your social goal. I will be happy to splash it as a honorary banner across the screen. That's all I can really do for you. Okay. I'm afraid I can't do much more. Of course, it has to be on your honor. I mean, if you really didn't pay off your $100,000 student loan, well, I'm not going to check that. I'm not going to ask for verification. I try to see most of the comments, honestly, and in a good way. It's getting harder and harder for me to see all the comments because the channel is moving, and I appreciate you guys so much, more than you could ever know. Okay, so keep it going. I'm so happy. All right, and if you find value in this, don't forget to subscribe. And also, they talked about their friends. Okay, she's talking about her friend's debt. So next to getting rejected for the house because they got too much debt, she was talking about her friends and how they're watching their friends buy stuff and yada yada. This is something that's just going to be a hard reality. Okay, when you straddle yourself with so much, or just strap yourself. I can't remember. Okay, what time is it? It's about 7:30 on Sunday. When you strap yourself with so much student loan debt, here is the reality, young people especially. You're going to watch your friends who are not strapped with the same debt. They're going to start getting married. You may have to hold it off due to your student loan debt. They're going to start having a family if that's what they wish. Not everybody does. Okay. I don't have children. All right. But if they want to, you're going to find that, those were strapped without student loan debt that want to live closer to a debt-free or at least, sustainable lifestyle. You're going to watch them get their houses. Why can they do those things? Because they made different financial choices than you did. They chose not to strap themselves with a lot of debt. You did. And this can be very difficult to take on at times. Okay. Because you're like, I've gone to school. I've worked so hard. I've done all this. How is it that these people who didn't go to school didn't, it seems like they didn't have to work as hard. Why is it they're getting all this stuff? Well, here's the secret. They actually did work as hard as you did. Yes, they did. They just did it differently. They did a route that didn't require a college loan. It did not require a college degree. And I think one of the things that we have to be careful of, especially now, if we don't want the, what is it, the finger given at us that went to college, we have to start paying probably a whole lot more respect to people who chose not to go. Because guess what? They're going to probably live the good life faster, all right, than those who went to college and got debt. I am not talking about those who went to college, got minimal debt, could pay it off. If you can pay off your college debt in less than 10 years, I think that's fantastic. I'm talking about the people who went to college and they're looking at student loan debt for 15, 20, 25 years. I had it for 16. I know what it's like. It is one long slog and haul. Okay. So she says at the end, she goes, they're watching their friends start to get houses and stuff. Yes, they made different choices. Yeah, they made different choices. They chose perhaps to go to community college. You perhaps chose to go to private school. They chose to go in state. Perhaps you went to go out of state. They knew what they wanted to do as soon as they got out of high school, and maybe you use college as 4 years to bounce around to go find yourself. Not insulting it, not saying that that's a bad thing. What I am going to say though is it's very costly. And when you understand just how great that debt is, okay, it may be too late for you to fix it. And now you're in this financial situation that you or someone has to get out of. So yes, it's going to sting a bit because you perhaps or someone is straddled with tons of student loan debt. I know people my age that are strapped with $100,000, $200,000 in student loan debt, and I'm 58. I know people who are. And one of the big things is going to be, who's got money for retirement. I retire in 11 years with a 30-year teacher pension, no student loan debt. Okay. I've worked my whole life. So, of course, Social Security will be there. Don't believe those stories that say it's not going to be there. It'll be there. It may be modified. It may be minimalized, whatever. There'll be something there. Okay. But it's going to sting. And it's going to be something that those of you who chose to take on a lot of student loan debt, you're going to have to accept that stinging. You're going to have to accept that, maybe your friends that chose to take on less debt, even if they went to college, they made different choices in the type of major that perhaps they didn't bounce around. Okay. It's very costly to change majors. Oh, yes. Oh, and it's even more costly to lose a scholarship because you couldn't keep up on the GPA. Or you did something stupid that broke the terms of the scholarship. You did something, maybe there's a clause there that says don't do, stupid stuff on social media and you did it. People lose scholarships all the time. So they made different decisions. So if you don't want to be one of those people at 30 years old, 35 years old, strapped with student loan debt from your 20s, you have to start thinking. You have to think as objectively as possible. Are you really making the best choice? Or are you making a choice based on emotion because the boyfriend or girlfriend went there? And that's where you want to be. Or you want to be as far away from your parents as you can be, even though your parents have said, look, the basement is open, take it. It hurts. And I've been there. Okay. I have been there. And I'll be honest with you. I'll share something personal because that's kind of what this channel is for anyways. At 58, even for me, and I am financially solid now. I am debt free. I can live off of one check, shove about, let's say it began this year. I'm able to save $25,000 a year into retirement to go in addition. And I want to do that for 10 years, put about 25,000 away. Okay. I'd like to have had more. Yes, but I made different decisions. I had a different life experience. I accept that. So now I'm making the best decisions that I can. I'm not going to retire with millions of dollars or anything like that. Okay. But I'll retire solid. My saving grace, honestly, is my teacher's pension. And that was the best decision I ever made in my 30s, was to become a third generation teacher. But when I talk about it stinging, even at this age, the age of 58, don't think for a minute. I don't look at other people my age at times and I go, wow, Carrie, that's me. My name's Carrie. Okay. I know I don't say my name very often. Okay. I sometimes look at myself and I go, how come I don't drive that type of car? How come I don't live in that type of house? I work just as hard. But you see, you have to understand something. It's not all about how hard you work. It's the experiences you've gone through. And those experiences can be based off of things that were or were not caused by you, clearly. So all you can do is you look at what you have in front of you. You accept it. and you make the best chess moves from there on that you can. I want you to stop playing checkers, and I want you to advance to chess. You want to be debt free? Stop playing the stupid checkers game. Start playing chess. Start thinking critically. Start using the brain. Yes. A lot of times, I believe we know the right answer. Yeah, I really believe we do. A lot of times, I believe we know the right answer as to who we're married to. I believe oftentimes, and whether or not we should marry that person. I believe oftentimes we already know the right answer on what to do with our money. The problem is we lean towards what's convenient. We lean towards what's safe. We lean towards what's easier. You get enough of those leanings in your life versus doing what was actually best for you. Okay. Um, I look at myself, and at times, I think, how come, I can look at myself at 57 and go, geez, I'm at 58. I'm almost 58 in July. Okay. I can look at myself and I go, I feel so far behind sometimes. I mean, I live in 840 square feet and drive a Corolla. I mean, I got people my age that are kicking ass financially and in a good way. It's not about how hard you work. Get that out of your head, because everybody, oh, it's just how hard you work. No, it's not. That's a piece of the puzzle. It's not all of it. So this lady and her husband, yes, it is going to hurt. And depending upon how quickly they decide to get out of their financial situation, it could hurt for a very long time. And even if they get their house, and even if they get the family that they want, if it's being done with that student loan in the background, picking at them the whole time, that they're just going to retire with it. So for their sake, I would tell them, yes, you're going to see your friends getting things, but I want you to focus on what you're doing, not what your friends are doing. It's the only way I was able to get myself to debt freedom. If I had sat there and I'd gone, my God, I'm so far behind other people my age. How am I so far behind? What did I do wrong? And I slam myself, and I insult myself, and because it's not hard to do. Even today, it's not hard to do at all. Instead, it's like, I want you to get that mind game out of your head. You can't compare yourself to you. And I tell this to my students, and I think sometimes, God, I need to give that advice to myself. Okay. You're only being compared to you. And I know we know this stuff, and it probably sounds like psychology, or what is it, counseling 101, but we forget it until we hear it on the TikTok. And she says, I watch what my friends are doing. Yes, your friends are going to do it. And they may, in the end result, have more than you. They may acquire more than you because they made different decisions. But the cool part, and I have to remember this too, in my little 840 square feet, all right, we get the opportunity to make future decisions. And we want those future decisions to be in our favor. And it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing.
I took out loans for college and I owe it all back. I made a conscious decision to get a bachelor's degree. I also chose to get a higher education, and I owe it. I don't have a problem with it. I want to pay off my student loans. The problem that I have is my interest rate alone is $1,400 a month. That's not even me making a payment towards my actual loan. That's the problem. And I chose to go back into teaching because I'm taking advantage of the public loan forgiveness program, but my teaching salary, along with my loans and my $1,400 interest rate, they don't match. Like, they don't go together. I'm just a regular mom, 3 kids, just living an average life. That's the problem.
I'm going to stop this really quickly. I had the chance to speak with her. Again, just a quick TikTok, not like we sat and had some long conversation. And I said to her, okay, you're a teacher. Why aren't you on public service loan forgiveness, income-based? Well, apparently her loan, and she posted this publicly on her social media. It wasn't a private conversation. Okay. If it's a private conversation, I don't discuss it, obviously, but when you post it right on social media, it's open. Okay. And she posted on her TikTok page, in my response, she said that I guess her loan right now is with Mohila. God dang. I'm so sorry. And I told her that too. And Mohila, as it was reported on this channel and other channels, Mohila currently is under investigation for incompetency in handling student loan debt. Okay. And as such, her loans are actually frozen. Nothing happens. Now, I said to her, I really hope that because this is not the fault of the teachers and the other public service workers, I'm really hoping that they're getting credit towards their 120 months because this is not their fault. But but without the income based, her monthly student loan would be 1,400. So because she's looking at over 100,000 in student loans. I really, really feel badly for people that are PSLF that are really caught in this trap. Now, don't get me wrong, there are people actually on PSLF and they're doing their monthly, here's my student loan payment on income based. Here's my, job that I've done for a month because every single month they do the job counts as credit. 1 month in the full-time job and one student loan payment on an approved plan. Just making a payment. Okay, for those of you who knew PSLF, you can't just make a payment and have it count towards PSLF because you're in a public service job. It has to be a payment based on an approved payment plan designed for PSLF. Holy moly. So I really hope I'll write back on her TikTok because I really want her to keep us posted as to what's going on. But Mohila right now is a mess. And if you're with Mohila, your loans have been frozen. I'm assuming your interest is frozen as well. That would be my assumption, but don't go with what I say because I'm not the reliable source in that way.
And this is where people are getting upset about, is that they are taking out these loans. The interest rates are so high. People are struggling to pay them. They're just struggling just to live in this economy.
I'm sorry, but I don't think paying back your debts is morally superior. I literally don't care that you grinded for over a decade and stretched yourself so thin and worked 2 jobs and missed out on kids' birthdays and missed out on funerals and missed out on your life. What is dwindling time in your life of mobility and good health in order to pay back, of all people, the federal government. You will never catch me working that hard for the federal government, ever. Ever, ever, ever. There are so many people in my comments, wait, I'm confused. I thought we were paying our student loans back. It's a loan, not a gift. Yeah, I literally don't care. Congratulations. You did? I'm not. Congratulations. Like, you literally are living and dying to pay back the federal government. And it's
I've had people writing into my channel, kind of berating because I got public service loan forgiveness. And look, I totally understand that there are people there is a crowd out there and God bless you. They are not going to file bankrupt no matter what. They are not going to take public service no matter what. God bless you because I don't have that in me. If I look at the numbers and it's really clear that this problem isn't going to fix itself, I'm bankrupt and loan forgiven. So I understand what she's saying. Okay. I understand what this TikToker is saying, but at the same time, you know what? I understand the people who say they're going to pay it off. That's fine. I will tell you that if you're going to be a teacher and you want a master's degree, which you're going to have to advance pretty much in anything in education. Okay. Especially if you want to get out of that 38,000 a year pay. All right. Or you want to make it into the 50s or something like that, at least you're going to need a master's degree. And this is where it sucks because the job itself doesn't pay enough to pay off the degree. And this is why I don't feel bad. If somebody said to me, Carrie, do you feel like you took it to the taxpayers for all it was worth since you got your 110,000 forgiven? No, I've spent 19 years. In 2 weeks, I will spend 19 years educating America's youth. Okay. Do that job for 19 years. No, I don't feel bad. I lay my head on the pillow. I feel grateful. I feel blessed. I feel like I've been given a second chance financially. But do I actually feel like someone who paid off their loan somehow or another is superior? No, I don't. And maybe it's the 2 bankruptcies. I don't know. But all I know is that again, and it's what I was saying earlier, everybody has to walk their own path. Everybody has to do things their own way. Some people will need to file bankrupt to get a fresh start. Dave Ramsey had to file bankruptcy to get a fresh start. Where would we be today? Would Dave Ramsey, as we know him today, even exist if he could not have filed bankruptcy? If Dave Ramsey could have not have filed bankruptcy, would his show have existed? No. Why? Because he wouldn't have ever had a second chance to start himself over. So by having my student loans forgiven and at the time I was 16 years in America's classroom, okay, teaching kids, I honestly, I felt it was more than a fair trade. The way I also looked at it is, let's say, okay, so 10,000, I got 110,000. Let's add on about an extra $8,000 a year. If you average it all out to what I made over the last 16 years, okay, doesn't even come to 8,000, maybe 7,000 extra a year. So do I think the taxpayer got ripped off? No, I said the taxpayer got a great deal. Again, you're talking about a profession where people want the most educated, but the profession doesn't pay enough to get us at that level to pay it ourselves.
Never gonna be me. The bootlicking is insane. It's a really, really weird hill to die on. All debts. That goes for houses, that goes for cars. We're weighed down by cars and car loans with high interest rates because we don't have public transport that's affordable and or accessible. Weighed down by mortgages. Let's not even talk about that. None of us are ever going to own homes ever again. Allowing predatory practices like LLCs buying out houses, doing absolutely nothing about it, if anything, perpetuating the behavior. The federal government does not care about you.
Okay, I'm going to say something. All right. People oftentimes bring up the price of eggs. Oh, heck, I've brought up the price of eggs. Yes, eggs are expensive, way more expensive than they should be. I think last I saw at the local Publix is our general grocery store here in Florida. I think eggs were like $9 for 18 eggs. $9 before tax. It was like $9.50. Okay, so just round it off to $10. But I'm going to tell you something. Okay, your ass ain't broke because of the price of eggs. If you broke, it's what you were doing before the eggs rose in price. I'm serious. Your butt ain't broke because of the price of eggs. Yes, it sucks that we pay almost double for eggs. Yes, it does. I am right behind you on the chickens on that. But you're not broke in and of itself because of the price of eggs. We can't put a scapegoat on one or two products, commodities, whatever, okay? And say that's the reason we're broke. We are broke because eggs went up in price. Yes, the eggs went up in price. Yes, it sucks they went up in price. I don't like paying the higher price, and neither does anyone else. But that's not the reason we're broke. We're broke because the decisions we made before the eggs went up in price. We're perhaps broke because we are not willing to adapt and adjust our budget. Nope, we have to have the fancy Greek yogurt. Let me tell you something. I'm on something called Best Choice. Walmart, by the way, has changed. It's not great value anymore. It's called something called Best Choice. Look, if I open it up and at least looks decent, I'm buying it. Okay, I think it's called or Good, Better, something like that. Some brand that Walmart now has. It's not called Great Value anymore. Okay, I buy the cheapest stuff there is when it comes to the. Okay, I don't care. It doesn't have to be name brand food. I will buy the cheapest I can find for the most part. For the most part, but your behind ain't broke because the eggs went up in price. You have to look at what you were doing before the eggs went up in price. Because I guarantee you, if you weren't broke on eggs, you were broke on something else. We have to be careful. We can't blame one product. We can't say it's the price of Crest toothpaste. That's the reason it went up. Okay, speaking of prices going up, all right, I'm going to tell you something. Walk with me and diverge in the road, all right? If anybody's still here, please leave in the comments if you're still here. Good Lord, we're 43 minutes in. You know, one of my friends I was talking to on the phone, she said, we were talking about how I could take an 8-minute Dave Ramsey video because I love doing Dave Ramsey. Don't worry, Dave Ramsey's coming up again, okay? Dave Ramsey's not going anywhere, all right? There'll be at least a couple Dave Ramseys a week, all right? But the Dave Ramsey, she was like, the 8-minute videos that I do commentary to, and I could turn it like into a 45-minute session. I said, well, you know what? It takes talent to do this. This job takes talent to be able to take something that's only 8 minutes long and turn into a really long diatribe. Hey, it's my gift. All right. It is my gift to the universe. All right. Anyways, so speaking of ridiculous price things, okay, I was over at Dillard's the other day, and just yesterday, in fact. All right. And there's a perfume called Beautiful. Yes, that's what it's called. And it's by Chanel. I believe it's Chanel that makes beautiful. I think it is. I was going to say Estee Lauder. I don't think it's Estee Lauder. I think it's Chanel that makes beautiful. Well, I guess the beautiful lotion, and I've never owned the perfume. All right. I've never owned anything from Chanel. But moving on, all right. I was having a moment of I feel sorry for myself and sad eyes and all of that. Okay. But I was over at the counter because I said to the lady, I said, do you have any samples of it or anything? Even though I already know what it smells like. I just really, really like it. And she says, no. And I said, how much is the lotion? Like I was going to pay for it. But, sometimes we like to feel we're wealthy, especially us ladies. We'll go in and we'll ask for the price. We'll look at it, even though we know darn well we don't have the money for it. Okay. Let me stand corrected. I have the money for it. I choose not to spend the money on it. Okay. So, because it would interfere with other budgetary things. So I said, how much is the lotion? It's beautiful by Chanel. I hope it's Chanel. And she says it's $45. No, excuse me. She says it's $70. And I said, 70? I said, it used to be like $50. That's why I was getting the 45 from. She goes, yeah. She goes, but about a year or two ago, I guess they decided to raise the price to 70. Now that is obscene for an 8-ounce bottle of lotion, 8 ounces, $70 before tax. Now, if you're buying stuff like that, that will affect your budget. Not because eggs went from $4 to $9, even though that sucks too. And if you want to talk proportion wise, yeah, the eggs went up even more. See, but we do have to look at what is actually killing our budget. It's usually our wants, not our needs. Okay. And even eggs, I mean, is that a want or a need? I consider it to be a want because it's got protein. Excuse me, I consider it to be a need because it has protein and stuff, and it's very healthy for you if you eat dairy. Not all people do, some for just dietary or religious reasons. But anyways, if your butt is broke, you can't blame the eggs. You have to look at your spending.
We are slaves to student debt.
Between myself and my children, I owe $211,000 in student
Look at the age of these ladies. Look at the age.
loan debt.
I borrowed $60,000 and now I'm $268,000 in debt.
I borrowed $70,000. Over 10 years, I paid $60,000, and I still owe $75,000 more than I borrowed.
The interest is so high and it's compounded daily. It's predatory.
If these loans don't go away, they're going to garnish my Social Security.
Did you notice the age of all those people? Grandmas, great grandmas. They've all paid 2-3 times the loan over. Even my $110,000. I looked, okay, I had paid about $45,000. But my bill still over the 16 years I had it, okay? But my bill still went from $85,000 to $110,000 when it was finally forgiven. But why? Because I never paid enough to make the interest. I'm telling you, people, this channel will exist every single day to remind people the dangers of student loans. And here's the thing. We say it's predatory, but here's an honest question I have to ask myself. Is something predatory simply because we don't understand it if the math is accurate? If the math is accurate, is it still predatory? Here's what I think. I think the reason people feel it's predatory, and the reason even I feel it's predatory, it's because the banks know, the lenders know that for the most part, people don't have an idea that income-based payment will never pay off the bill. And I'm hoping that as time goes by and as social media gets out there, as this channel grows, okay, as other channels grow, because it's good to have all of us growing. I believe in community growth, okay? It's not all about me, all right? But for all the purposes, if you could consider subscribing, that would be great, okay? But if you think about it, my hope is that as social media brings to an awareness the ridiculous way that student loans keep you in debt for life, okay, then we can stop saying that it's predatory. It feels predatory, but in reality, it's not. I may feel it's predatory, and I do, but in reality, it's really not predatory. When you got your student loan debt, you sit down and say to them, okay, what's the interest rate? How many years? What is my payment going to look at? I want to major in photography, and I'd like to take out an $85,000 loan. Can you tell me how much that's going to be? And then when you did find out how much was going to be per month, did you figure out what the cost of living is in the city that you wanted to go to, how much the average job pays in the city that you want to go to, in the industry that you say? And you go, oh, gee, you know what? I realize if I want to be a photographer and I want to take out an $85,000 student loan, it might not be a good idea because I don't have $800 a month to possibly give to you in student loan payments because I just looked up what the average job pays. No, we don't do that. We simply go, what's the interest rate? 6% sounds cool to me. I really want to be a photographer or whatever. Pick the degree that you want. See, that's what happens is our lack of really investigating a major purchase that we're going to make. Does that in and of itself make the purchase predatory? No, it does not. It makes us naive. Maybe it even makes us a little bit on the lazy side, but it doesn't make it predatory. But the reason it feels predatory is you think to yourself, what bank? And this is what happened to me too, and millions of other people, I'm sure. I never assumed that a bank would give me a payment on something that would never pay itself off. My assumption is you'd give me a payment based on something that would actually pay off. Lo and behold, I was wrong. And so were millions of other people.
Y'all, if you can, please stay away from private student loans. So when I was in school, I did a Sallie Mae private loan. When I signed up for the loan, the interest rate was at 7%. So not only was 7% interest building while I was in school, but by the time I finished paying off the loan, which was only a year after I finished school, the interest rate was at 12%. So this is because a lot of private student loans have variable interest rates, where the interest rate of your loan can change literally just based off the discretion of who owns your loans.
A lot of young people don't know this, and even some older people don't know this. This is why I beg you, okay? If there's not one of the three things you learn on this channel, okay? Do not take out private loans. Look, by the time you get to private loans, you can't afford the bill, okay? You've gone to your mom, dad, grandma, you've gone to the federal government, you've gone through the scholarships, and now you are going to the private loans. You can't afford the bill. You're going to be like that gal or that couple, okay? I think she and her husband sitting there with your $200,000+ student loan and all, go out and buy their big screen TVs and get their house. Yes, because they aren't strapped with that loan. Private loans can change like the wind. And I think it's so unfair. Because, you purchase something at one day, okay, and you purchase it, say it's 6%. And then, they sell the loan, or maybe they don't sell the loan, but either way, the loan interest rate gets changed, and that entire balance that you initially thought was at 6% can double, triple, whatever they want. Private loans, you get to private loans, you can't afford it. You can't afford that degree.
But if you had federal student loans, you will have fixed interest rates. And not only that, but you could have income-based repayment plans. You could get your loans deferred. There's
and all of those, both of those. Okay, she's right. Federal, your interest is fixed. But did you hear? You can get your income based. You get deferred. Do any of those solve the problem? I want you to think more critically. I want you to think to yourself, what you are hearing, will it solve the problem? No, it band-aids it, and that's so much of the problem with student debt. We are great at band-aiding student debt. Ring, ring. Sallie Mae, I'd like to do a deferment, or I'm going to go back to school for 2 credits or whatever. Okay. We are so great at band-aiding it that we don't even know how to get rid of it anymore.
So many programs that the government offers that can help you with your loans and paying them back, whereas a lot of private student loans don't offer these programs.
And again, those programs that they offer, they don't solve the problem. They don't solve it. Defer away.
Okay, guys, I'm going to give you a heads up here about student loans. Avoid them at all costs. Whenever you go to apply for school, make sure that you are applying for a Pell Grant, which you do not pay back. Pay careful attention to all the documents that you are signing, because there are colleges out there that are very dishonest. They will tell you it's a Pell Grant when it's actually a loan. Now, if you default on the loan, there's several ways that they could take the money back, even taking it out of your income tax return or even from your paycheck. The good news is if you're low income, you can call your servicer, whoever handles your loan, and they can work on a budget that will work towards your budget on how much you can pay back. If you have a low enough income, you can have for up to a year at a time of $0 payments. Now, the interest will still accrue, but you won't be responsible for adding in those extra payments.
That was god awful music in the background. That wasn't my music. That's god awful TikTok. I couldn't separate it. So that was from an LNet advisor.
So I just got an email. They just transferred my student loans from Fed Loan to Nelnet. Now let me explain something to you. I ain't got it. We ain't got no stimulus checks. We don't have no increase in minimum wages. And y'all still want these student loans. I forgave myself. I have left that up to the Lord. It is above me now. It is in Jesus' hands. Amen.
Amen.
Cameron Olson owns the graphics company.
Ready for the road.
One of his big accounts
Dispatches 13 vans.
outfitting a new era of Chicago police vans. To pursue his dream of running his own business, Cameron enrolled in a graphic design program.
Went for about 2.5 years, realized that the loans were getting out of control, and it was going to cost another $30,000 to finish.
Cameron has a graduated payment plan. At first, he made small monthly payments. Every 2 years, his monthly payment goes up. Recently, Cameron saw his loan statement.
I wanted to light it on fire.
Cameron initially owed about $25,000. Nearly $14,000 in payments later, he owes almost $26,000.
And what was even more infuriating is that it made me realize that my wife's loans were probably twice as bad.
Cameron's wife attended the same school. Initially, she had nearly $82,000 in loans, but now owes nearly $98,000.
I mean, there's no way out.
This is where Cameron attended classes on the Schaumburg campus of the Illinois Institute of Art. You'll notice the parking lot is now empty, and that's because, to make matters worse, the school has since closed and lost its accreditation.
Just recently, they agreed to pay $200 million in settlement. So we're going to try to go after that a little bit.
Cameron and his wife are selling their house and will use the money to pay down their loans.
Are y'all paying your student loans? Because I thought we all agreed that we weren't. And then I feel like y'all low-key are. Like, I feel like y'all are. So, like, what's really going on? I was on the phone with my friend the other day, and she was, like, talking about them. And I was like, wait, why are we talking about them? Like, why are they a topic of discussion? Like, aren't we in solidarity?
This man just said they can just take my bachelor's degree. I'm not even using it anyway. When I tell y'all I felt it, I have a bachelor's and a master's, and I'm not even using it. They finna start garnishing people wages starting on the field. It's the 4th now, and I'm so glad my loans are in deferment. I don't know when I gotta make a payment, but when that day come, can I defer it again? I ain't got it. I ain't have it in. I ain't got it in. At this point, y'all can take my bachelor's and master's. I don't even need it. I feel like they're trying to make the rich richer and the poor poorer.
Okay, so total amount paid so far, $53,227. I owe a lot for my school loans. Principal paid, if you're not aware, that's like the actual, like that's money going towards the actual loan. Total interest paid, $23,000. So of the amount that I've actually paid off, like almost half of that is just the interest.
So I wanted to figure out how much money exactly I was paying off in student interest for just my federal loans. So I did a little investigation. Keep in mind that I have federal student loans, my husband has federal student loans, and then I have refinanced 2 of them. So in total we have about $154,000 in student loans, but my federal student loans are about $77,000, and it's made up of 4 like smaller loans. Anyways, I calculated it, and guess what? I pay $396 a month in interest every month. That's how much it accrues in interest every month. My minimum payment is of $875, and that means that about half the money that I'm paying just goes to interest, and then the other half goes to principal.
So our loan officer came back and said, LLJK, for the amount that we are approved for getting a house, and lowered it by $50,000 because of our student loans. So the number really wasn't an issue at first, but now that everything happening with student loans and everything, we'll have to start making payments on them in February for my husband and March for me. So our loan officer was like, LOL, nah dog, we're not approving y'all for that amount. So let me show y'all these numbers. So this is my husband's, $35,108, and this is mine, $121,264. So of course, we're obviously bummed out. I think I'm more so bummed out because I just feel like I am just kind of stuck in this financial hole, and I know that the path for me was to open my practice and right out of school and yada yada yada. But it's just kind of like, I'll look at my friends and how they started working right out of school, and I'm like, if I just started working right out of school, we'd be definitely in a different financial spot than where we are. But I can't compare. But it's heavy.
I took out loans for college and I owe it all back. I made a conscious decision to get a bachelor's degree. I also chose to get a higher education, and I owe it. I don't have a problem with it. I want to pay off my student loans. The problem that I have is my interest rate alone is $1,400 a month. That's not even me making a payment towards my actual loan. That's the problem. And I chose to go back into teaching because I'm taking advantage of the public loan forgiveness program, but my teaching salary, along with my loans and my $1,400 interest rate, they don't match. They don't go together. I'm just a regular mom, 3 kids, just living an average life. That's the problem. And this is where people are getting upset about, is that they are taking out these loans. The interest rates are so high, people are struggling to pay them. They're just struggling just to live in this economy.
I'm sorry, but I don't think paying back your debts is morally superior. I literally don't care that you grinded for over a decade and stretched yourself so thin and worked 2 jobs and missed out on kids' birthdays and missed out on funerals and missed out on your life, what is dwindling time in your life of mobility and good health, in order to pay back, of all people, the federal government. You will never catch me working that hard for the federal government, ever. Ever, ever, ever. There's so many people in my comments, wait, I'm confused. I thought we were paying our student loans back. It's a loan, not a gift. Yeah, I literally don't care. Congratulations. You did? I'm not. Congratulations. You literally are living and dying to pay back the federal government, and it's never going to be me. The bootlicking is insane. It's a really, really weird hill to die on when you can't even afford eggs. That goes for all debts. That goes for houses. That goes for cars. We're weighed down by cars and car loans with high interest rates because we don't have public transport that's affordable and or accessible. Weighed down by mortgages. Let's not even talk about that. None of us are ever going to own homes ever again. Allowing predatory practices like LLCs buying out houses, doing absolutely nothing about it, if anything, perpetuating the behavior. The federal government does not care about you.
We are slaves to student debt.
Between myself and my children, I owe $211,000 in student loan debt.
I borrowed $60,000 and now I'm $268,000 in debt.
I borrowed $70,000. Over 10 years, I paid $60,000, and I still owe $75,000 more than I borrowed.
The interest is so high and it's compounded daily. It's predatory.
If these loans don't go away, they're going to garnish my Social Security.
Y'all, if you can, please stay away from private student loans. So when I was in school, I did a Sallie Mae private loan. When I signed up for the loan, the interest rate was at 7%. So not only was 7% interest building while I was in school, but by the time I finished paying off the loan, which was only a year after I finished school, the interest rate was at 12%. So this is because a lot of private student loans have variable interest rates, where the interest rate of your loan can change literally just based off the discretion of who owns your loans. But if you had federal student loans, you will have fixed interest rates. And not only that, but you could have income-based repayment plans, you can get your loans deferred. There are so many programs that the government offers that can help you with your loans and paying them back. Whereas a lot of private student loans don't offer these programs.
Okay guys, so I'm going to give you a heads up here about student loans. Avoid them at all costs. Whenever you go to apply for school, make sure that you're applying for a Pell Grant, which you do not pay back. Pay careful attention to all the documents that you are signing, because there are colleges out there that are very dishonest. They will tell you it's a Pell Grant when it's actually a loan. Now, if you default on the loan, there's several ways that they could take the money back, even taking it out of your income tax return or even from your paycheck. The good news is if you're low income, you can call your servicer, whoever handles your loan, and they can work on a budget that will work towards your budget on how much you can pay back. If you have a low enough income, you can have for up to a year at a time of $0 payments. Now, the interest will still accrue, but you won't be responsible for adding in those extra payments.
So I just got an email. They just transferred my student loans from Fed loan to Nelnet. Now let me explain something to you. I ain't got it. We ain't got no stimulus checks. We don't have no increase in minimum wages. And y'all still want these student loans. I forgave myself. I have left that up to the Lord. It is above me now. It is in Jesus' hands. Amen.